What's up? How you doing? It's Alex here, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about living in Toronto. So maybe you're considering moving here for work, being relocated, maybe you're looking to study here in Toronto at one of the universities, or maybe you're just moving to Toronto from another country. And in this video I'm going to talk to you about the 5 things that I love about it and the 5 things that I hate about living in Toronto. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's first go through the 5 positives or the 5 good things that I do love about Toronto. And for me, number 1 is the growth and the size of the city. Toronto is the number 1 city in terms of size and population in all of Canada, and Toronto is also the 3rd biggest city in North America behind New York and LA. And I think we just beat Chicago in terms of population size. So right now, at the time of this video, the population of Toronto and the GTA, which is the Greater Toronto Area, is around 6.2 million people. And I just read an article last week in one of the newspapers here that the population growth or the population expectancy in 10 years in 2030 is expected to be around 8 million people. So from 6.2 to 8 million in the GTA area, that's, a huge amount of growth, 30% growth, and the city's only going to get bigger and larger. Toronto is also the most populated city in Canada. It has 25% of the population within 150-160 kilometer range of the Toronto city centre. Number 2 for me is that Toronto is the financial and banking capital of Canada. Like I said, Toronto is the largest city in the country, but it's also the financial hub of the whole country as well. We have the Toronto Stock Exchange based here, and we have all the banks that are also stationed here in Toronto. So in terms of jobs, if you're an investment banker, deal with mortgages, trades, options, all those type of financial things, Toronto is where you probably want to be. The other sector which is huge in Toronto is the information technology sector. So if you're in that field, Toronto has had a bunch of growth in the last 10-15 years with the IT sector. Number 3 for me is Toronto's diversity. The city has people from all over the world. There's a lot of different communities and little neighborhoods in different parts of the city. There's Greektown, there's Little Italy, there's Chinatown. In certain areas outside of the Toronto city center, there's also known for their Italian or Persian or Asian influence as well. Number 4 for me, one of the best things about Toronto is that it's known for its food, its entertainment, its healthcare, and also its school system. So if you're a big foodie, you love food, who doesn't like to eat? We've got food from all over the world because, like I said, a previous point, we've got so much diversity. So if you want Indian food, Chinese, Italian, French, whatever you want, we've got it basically. Toronto's got huge entertainment. So if you're into sports, for example, we've got the 2019 World Champions Toronto Raptors, we've got the Toronto Maple Leafs, we've got the Toronto Blue Jays, and we've also got TFC if you're into football, as I would call it, or soccer if you're North American. But if you're from South America or Europe, football is football. We've got a huge theatre district behind New York. And if you're into shows, theatre, we've got a lot of that here in the city on entertainment, in the entertainment district. Along Theatre Row there. So if you're into shows, theatre, opera, Toronto is very well known for its opera and entertainment scene. Another big attraction to Toronto is its education system. We've got a lot of people coming from all over the world, whether it's high school or university or in the medical field, that come here to study in Toronto. We have a very good school system, and in Toronto City Central we do a lot of business in terms of people in the medical field, like I said, looking to study here and get their qualifications. So in Toronto, another big attraction for people to be here in Toronto and also throughout Canada is the medical system that we have and the healthcare system. So like I said, we've got a lot of people that come here to study for the medical profession, but also in terms of people looking for specialists, we've got huge sick kids for hospital here as well. The healthcare system and the hospital system is very well set up here in the city. So number 5 for me is Toronto's actual location. We do get all seasons here, so very cold in the winter time, very hot in the summertime. So if you want to drive 2 or 3 hours north of the city, you can go to Collingwood and Muskoka locations. It's known as cottage country here in Canada. And if you want to go skiing in the winter time, you want to hang out by the lake in the summertime, to drive 2 or 3 hours is a relatively short drive, and you can be out of the city, feel like you're in a completely different place, very much more quiet, more relaxed, more chilled out. So it's good kind of location-wise. The other thing I like about being in Toronto is to fly down to somewhere warmer during the winter months, whether that's Miami or anywhere in the Caribbean. It's a 3-hour flight to go down the East Coast, and you can go from -10 to +30 degrees within a few hours flight. So it has a little bit of a convenience factor as well. So if you're a business person and do a lot of business in the States, to go to Chicago, New York, Miami, like I said, is, Chicago, New York is about an hour and a half. Miami is 3 hours, and to fly to LA is about 5 hours. So it's very ideally located if you do a lot of business in North America as well. So if there's something else that I've missed from my top 5 list of things that you like living in Toronto, if you already live here, hit me up in the comments below and tell me what you like about living in Toronto, what your most favorite things are, maybe some of your best restaurant or places to visit. Okay, so now we've covered the 5 things that I like. Now we're going to cover the 5 things that I hate about living in Toronto and the things that drive me nuts. Number 1 for me has got to be the traffic. No matter where you live in the city or in and around the city of Toronto, there's going to be traffic during rush hour. Now, rush hour can be from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then again from 3 p.m. to probably 6 or 7 p.m. easily in the evening, leaving the city. So in such a big city, it's grown so much, a lot more people, a lot more cars on the road. I've been here for 20 years and I've seen a lot of change, a lot of growth in the city, and traffic has got progressively worse. I'm not a huge fan of the streetcars. They need to build more subways here. If you look at any large city in North America, like Chicago, New York, there's a proper subway system. You go to Europe, you've got London, Barcelona, Madrid, Athens, Paris, anywhere there's a huge city, you need to have a proper subway network, and we don't have that. We have a subway network, but it's not ideal in terms of getting around everywhere. We have a combination of subways, buses, and streetcars. Streetcars are nostalgic, they look good, but they're not really practical in such a huge city, in my opinion. Okay, number 2, it's got to be the weather. So in the winter time here, it can get very, very cold. The worst months are going to be January, February, and March, but I remember a couple of years ago, we actually got snow in May. So number 2 for me has got to be the weather. It's very extreme. It can be very cold in the winter time. Also in the winter can be very long. They're the months you want to book a trip, go somewhere warm for a week or 2 and get in the sun, put your feet in the sand. So in the winter time, we don't have the longest daylight hours. It can get dark by 4:30, 5 o'clock typically in the winter time. So you get up in the morning, it can be dark, and by the time you get home from work, it can be dark too. So it can be a long winter time, unfortunately. On the flip side, on the summertime, June, July, August, the hottest months of the year, it does get very hot. It can also get very humid as well. So it's a very extreme location in terms of the cold and the heat. So number 3 for me is income tax. I understand we all have to pay income tax for the roads, the schools, the hospitals, etc. But Toronto, or Ontario should I say, is one of the most highly taxed provinces, and Canada is one of the most highly taxed countries in the world. So I would definitely do some research before you move here in terms of looking at income tax levels depending on where your bracket is, and also the amount of tax that you're going to pay on that. If you're a top income earner, you're going to be paying up to 53-54% tax on your income, unfortunately. The 4th thing that I don't like living in Toronto now is that it's just getting very crowded. It is getting very populated. I live in the downtown central area, so a lot of people commute downtown for work, whether that's by train, streetcar, walking, biking, or driving into downtown. I've noticed such a change in the last 10-15 years where it's become a lot busier, a lot more congested with traffic and just people, but this is a thing you're going to get with any growing city. So it's a good thing, but it also can be a bad thing. So the 5th thing for me about living in Toronto that I don't like has become the expense or the cost of living. It has definitely changed a lot over the last 10-15 years or so. I've been here for 20 years, and I remember when I did come here from England, the cost of food, the cost of gas or petrol, the cost of real estate, clothes, etc. was a lot less expensive than what it is today. So just be aware in terms of the cost of what it is going to cost you to move here if you're thinking about relocating to Toronto. So I hope you found that useful in terms of just my personal opinion and things that I like, things that I hate about living in Toronto. If you already live here in Toronto or you know Toronto, hit me up in the comments below. Tell me what you love, tell me what you hate. It'll be good to give other people different opinions. in terms of the pros and the cons of living in Toronto. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did like this video and you found it useful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell notification so when I do put out a new video, you're going to get notified. If there's a topic that you want me to do a video on, hit me up in the comments below and maybe I'll give you a shout out if I'm able to do that video. Thanks, and catch you soon.